This artwork is basically Fengming's questioning of what calligraphy is. Because people say that calligraphy is about lines. So he questions that if calligraphy is just about lines and he paints this, would this make it calligraphy? And the lines around the artwork is supposed to be a thought bubble. And what Fengming likes to do is he likes to question conventional thinking and understanding of things. So he wants us to break from that understanding of a conventional understanding of what calligraphy is, that it's just about beautiful lines. And that's why the lines extend from the artwork across the wall and onto the bookshelf as well. Now, in the middle of this, there is actually another artwork which Fengming uses charcoal to write on the wall instead, and it's actually an empty scroll. A lot of this whole exhibition is based on the Heart Sutra, and the Heart Sutra talks about emptiness is form and form is emptiness, and based on this concept, he expands it into a lot of his artworks and for this whole exhibition. So if you can see that the scroll is actually the scroll itself, and there's nothing in it, and this is what he means by form, and in this form is actually emptiness, but this emptiness actually creates the possibility to create something. It's a form to create something, and that's why he wrote the characters on the wall instead. The characters are not the traditional kind of calligraphy that you see. Instead, he uses very simple lines to write it, and he creates space in between the lines, again playing the idea about calligraphy being about lines and creating space in calligraphy, which he believes that is an element of calligraphy as well. So we just move on to this artwork.
Wow.
This is a multi-line script, and expanding on the same idea of calligraphy as lines, how he did this was he actually dipped a very dry brush in ink, and he leaves it for a while and lets the brush open up. When the brush opens up, he writes out the characters, and this is the Heart Sutra. Just to explain a little bit, that the drawn scroll is again based on his idea of space and the illusion of space. So it makes you think that it's being hung up, but actually it's not. And what creates the space are just plain black lines. So, yeah. Okay, this artwork is again based on the Heart Sutra, which talks about emptiness is form and form is emptiness. So what Fengming did was he wrote the characters on the underside of the paper. So you can tell that the ink is slightly faded because he wanted the effect of the ink traveling through the material, traveling through the sheet paper. And instead of writing out the characters, he outlines the character, and that's the form of the character. And you take out the character and you leave the form behind. Inside, it's emptiness, but it's also a possibility to think of what the character is and actually what the meaning is in it. So I think it's also about how you fill in your own meaning and how it gives you space to create your own thing about, emptiness is form and form is emptiness. For this artwork, it's called the Light Screw. It's really nice. What he did, if you can take a closer look, he first writes the Chinese characters in very diluted ink. And because of the sheet paper, the quality and the characteristics of it, when he painted the ink over the character, he's able to capture the outline of the Chinese characters because of the water. And instead of completely painting it over, he leaves triangle spaces in the middle of the characters. And these triangle spaces, they look very much like the sitting Buddha. And they are supposed to look like light tunnels, coming out from this black space. It's to create more dimension to a two-dimension piece. And if you look carefully, the Chinese characters, even though they are faded, but they look very much like they are emerging from the background, they're emerging and traveling through that space. And Fengming wanted to create a lot of dynamism in this artwork, and that's the reason why he did not frame the artwork, but keep it instead, so that it has space to move. When the aircon blows, it'll be moving like waves. For this artwork, it's based on the idea about enlightenment. Fengming explained that Reaching enlightenment can only be done so through practice and rewards of practice, and meditation and discipline. And so, basing on the same concept, what he did was he first wrote Chan with very diluted ink on the paper, and in order to get the perfect spot and the perfect splash, he had to go through many attempts to do it. And for him to get that perfect spot and perfect splash is like hitting enlightenment. The one at the door is actually a bigger idea of the same one that was just mentioned, is the splash script. So that one is just basically he splashes the ink in the middle and he folds it to create a more symmetrical look. For this artwork, it's one of his latest pieces. It's in 2012, and the Chinese characters at the back, written in very diluted ink, is actually his own poem that he wrote after he went through a heart surgery. He said that the definition of death is when your heart stops beating, and during that surgery, his heart actually stopped beating for about a few hours. To him, it was like death. So when he was done with the surgery, he felt like he was given a new life, a new chance to start again. So that is why there is a butterfly there. As you know, the butterfly represents like transformation and a new life. But in order for him to get this effect, he actually had to write the Chinese characters in very diluted ink, and then dip it in paper, and then quickly leave it out and use a dry brush to paint the butterfly over so that the ink can be captured on the characters itself. You can see it out.